This is Holy Faith Media.
Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. So as Joe and I always say, the left is teeing it up. Today's no exception.
Taking this down, are they not haters?
I think they might be listening to the Frontline with Joe and Joe.
Should be.
And once more, dear friends, we are going way into the breach. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And we got a great conversation for you tonight because there's a lot of nonsense, as always.
And we have made America great again.
Where's the woke media when it comes to that? Our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, not that it matters to our audience here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Super Bowl Sunday, we are going into the breach. We don't care about what happens with Tom Brady and Derek Mahomes, okay? Because there's a lot more important things to talk about. So we want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Remember, please follow Joe and I on both Facebook and YouTube. That's our primary place right now. Jonathan Ross, our producer up at Holy Faith Media, is getting us on other sites. We're gonna start building pages on other sites where if we could stream, we could stream. If we can't, we'll just post our videos, okay? And we're going to wean off of Facebook and YouTube. But for now, for communications purposes, follow Joe and I on Facebook and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share. Holy Faith Media also on Facebook and YouTube, okay? Please, the same. Like, subscribe, and share. Now, we're going to be saying this ongoing. We're not going to beat you over the head. There's a lot of times we understand that people that do what Joe and I are doing, okay, they're constantly asking for money, okay? We are not going to constantly ask for money. We're going to remind you now, or we're going to tell you now and then remind you once every show or a couple times, but that's it. Patreon. Patreon.com/Frontline with Joe and Joe. If you want to support us financially, there's different tiers, $5, $20, $50, and $99 per month. And we would love it if we could build up that subscription base so that we could keep our thing going. We could get our word spread out there to as far and wide as the good Lord wants it to be. So most importantly, though, we want to thank you for your prayers, because Joe and I, we said before, by the way, and we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. We said, look, it would have been very nice if Donald Trump was still in the Oval Office, but he's not. It's like the line from The Untouchables, Sean Connery. What are you prepared to do about it? Joe and I, Joe spearheaded it, okay? Joe and I started, by the grace of God, yesterday in front of one of our local parishes, a rosary rally. We thought 3 guys were going to show up. Me, Joe, and our friend Vinny. 15 guys showed up.
Yeah, it was good.
We didn't even know these guys, okay? They found out about it. We sent out an email. We didn't even know these guys. They came. We prayed the joyful mysteries. We had a sign that faced out to the street that said, "Pray to our Blessed Lady." Okay, pray for America through our Holy Mother. Okay, something along those lines. And we prayed the joyful mysteries. And guess what? That's going to catch on like wildfire. What I'm saying is, by bringing that up, is we fight the battle here first. None of us are perfect. We're all sinners. We all need confession. So don't worry about it. We got plenty of planks in our own eye. But we do, while we're growing in holiness, we do have to fight this culture war. But it starts here, not in the Oval Office, not in the halls of Congress. It starts in your heart. It starts in your own home. It starts on a local level, okay? Like a local rosary that could catch fire and go all over the United States and all over the world. That's what we're going to pray for that. Okay, particularly for Catholic men and other Christian men to pray to God to fight this culture war, men of goodwill, and keep it moving forward. That's how one man becomes, as Joe said, like 10,000 men, because you have God's grace. And believe me, when you hear the stories we're going through tonight, there's some people that get it. There's some people that don't. But at the end of the day, to fight against the people that don't get it, we need God's grace. So we want to thank you all. Remember, follow us, YouTube and Facebook, Holy Faith Media, Patreon.com, Frontline with Joe and Joe if you want to contribute. Having said that, Joe Resinello, where are we headed?
Well, we're going to try to start off on a positive note. We want to highlight some things that we could be doing, because sadly a lot of people are discouraged by the current events that are taking place, and rightfully so. We want to note some things that could lift us up a little bit. Because clearly, I mean, the culture is leading many people astray. But resistance is made possible through holiness. That's the title of our show today. Resistance is made possible through holiness. Anger and despair are temptations from the devil. Jesus taught us a better way to pick up his cross and follow him. So we want to give some helpful hints, some helpful guidance to our listeners to basically navigate this very difficult time.
And there's some very practical things that we're going to go over, some very practical things that we could do to begin to take up our cross. Very practical things that are imminently doable. Good, Joe.
So basically a good place to start is to know this. Everything is happening under God's watch. So we should be at peace. Jesus tells us, you do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will. That's in John 13:7. He also said this in it's also in Romans 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. We should be at peace. God has a plan. It's our job to just do our part and be faithful. That's it. Trust him.
You were put here at this place and time. You were in history. You weren't put here arbitrarily. God is the creator of the universe. God created you, and God decided in his eternal wisdom, divine wisdom, to put you here in 2021, to be in this position. And everything that's being put in front of us right now is a choice. Everything. We've said a million times on this show at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, there is no fence sitting. If you're fence sitting, okay? Now, as far as we're concerned, we think you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice by fence sitting, okay? But as far as the other side is concerned, as far as the forces of death on the other side of the culture war are concerned, you're sitting on the fence. They're going to force you to make a choice. You're either with us or you lose your head. That's the truth. So choices need to be made.
Also, we can hate situations, but we can't hate people. Pray for the players, regardless of their politics.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
All right. Somebody who we're following, who was also broadcast on Holy Faith Media, is Tim Flanders. I watched a video from him the other day. I might have mentioned it already on our show. I like Tim. I watch his show, and hopefully we could, and Joe and I and Kennedy Hall, we could all talk, do a podcast, on a particular topic or whatever. But we'll get together. Tim made a good point. He gave a video. This was from a couple weeks ago, where he said, if you are trying to fight this culture war, and I'm paraphrasing, he goes, and you're not doing it with love, if you lack charity in your heart, you're not doing what God wants you to do. And nobody needs to learn that lesson more than me. Okay? No, as Joe's right. We're fighting against ideas. Remember what St. Paul said. We're not fighting against flesh and blood. We're fighting against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. But we must do it with love of our fellow neighbor. With love of our neighbor, love in our heart.
No, it's very important.
Charity with truth, because truth without charity, that's only serving you.
No, I get it.
That's only serving, and we're not here to serve ourselves. Go ahead, Joe.
Because you could be completely right and still wrong. You know what I mean? Like I always ask myself, this is years ago, different things I've done for the church in my life. I'm 50 years old. I've been active from my 20s, doing different things, teaching ministries and whatnot. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? This is something you always have to ask yourself, no matter what you're doing for God. Because I'll tell you this, when you lose yourself is when God really works. John the Baptist said that, I must decrease, he must increase. In my personal opinion, that's one of the most important things said in the entire Bible. It's the way to heaven. Everything we do, it can't be like, oh, I'm smarter than this person, or I'm going to I'm going to make them look stupid, or I'm going to that's not why we do anything, and we can't hate people. Take Joe Biden. We have to pray for him every night. Now, as far as positions go, I have every right to respectfully disagree with them, and in fact, I even have a right to criticize them.
Of course.
Respectfully. However, we can't hate people.
No. Can't hate people. I just want to comment, Katie, one of our first followers. Hi, Katie. She's in the chat room. She says, sometimes I get down because my family are oblivious to what's happening. Join the club, Katie. I mean, a lot of people's families, they don't want to hear the way we're talking. And you said something, you're a conspiracy theorist. I just want to put this out there as far as conspiracy theories are concerned. Regardless of what's true, what's not true, what you can prove, what you can't prove, let's say one thing. One conspiracy we all know to be true. Satan and a third of the angels who are in hell with him conspire amongst themselves to destroy you and Joe and me and our families and everybody we love. That's the conspiracy you know. You know that one, okay? You don't need anybody to connect the dots out there in the internet and tell you that this is happening and that's... And it says some of it might be true, some of it not. I don't know. I know that conspiracy takes place. Therefore, that's why we're doing this video and we're starting with this story. Because I know that they are conspiring against my soul, the souls of the members of my family, okay? Then I have to come up with a means by which I could fight against that conspiracy. Hence, personal holiness. Starting there. Personal holiness. And guess what? If you fall short, the good Lord and his church gives us confession. We are all sinners. That's why Joe's always saying, go once a month, even for venal sins. Go get the grace. In other words, so that when you sin and fall, bring it to the Lord and get back in the fight. So I just wanted to bring that out, Katie. That conspiracy actually is taking place. That's the one we're talking about fighting against tonight in particular.
Also, every disappointment is an opportunity for grace. We can offer up even the little irritations or our intentions. You know, God works in mysterious ways. He makes crooked lines straight. Again, trust the plan. Trust the plan. You see, the disciple, originally the apostles, they didn't actually. You know, God tried to show them. They lack faith. They were human. I'm not pointing fingers at them. But, like, trust the plan. You know, they thought everything was lost when he was killed. That was just the beginning. It was just the beginning. Trust the plan. It's for us to be faithful. That's it. Do what you can do. Leave the rest to God. That's it. That's it. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter who's in the White House. You know, on our Crusade Channel show, what I said, nothing is changing for me. I'm going to do the same thing, whether Donald Trump's in office or whether Joe Biden.
And at the end of the day, what would you have gotten from Donald Trump? You would have gotten some better policies, okay, just on the political level, more judges, okay, and we're going to talk about a couple of examples of that, okay, and why that was important. But at the end of the day, they were fighting him so much tooth and nail. There was only so much he could do anything. Anyway, but what we could do, the possibilities are endless. Why? Because we have God on our side. We are fighting against the godless. Okay? And again, we say that with love. We tell them that because we love them, not because we hate them. They need to have God. And we need to say that and convince them. And don't think that we say that on the show all the time. Don't ever in your mind say to yourself, well, that person is beyond conversion. That person is beyond repentance because they're so deep into it. I will say 3 words to you. Dr. Bernard Nathanson killed 60,000 babies in the womb. Okay? He championed abortion. In other words, he was a big supporter at the time of when the Roe versus Wade was just a case before the Supreme Court. He converted from his pro-death position to his pro-life position, and he died a Roman Catholic. Now, that guy, a lot of people would have said, he's beyond redemption. Okay? But obviously, he wasn't. Okay? So your prayers, and what, not just praying for yourself, and that's important, all right, to pray for grace and holiness and everything else and some of our temporal needs, but to pray for other people, to pray for your enemy. Why did Jesus say it? Because it was easy? No, because it's hard. I'm not going to lie. I find it very difficult to pray for Nancy Pelosi. I do. Okay? That doesn't take away from the fact that I need to because I love her. In my heart, no matter what my emotions say, no matter how angry she can make me, let's say me and the rest of us, you still have to pray for her. We all do.
We have to also accept reality and navigate our place in it. Listen, you got to live in the real world. We're called to be in the world, but not of the world. We're not called to be on a hill somewhere in West Virginia hiding. We have to be in the world, and we have to witness in the world. Catholics were not meant to be comfortable. Christ wasn't comfortable. It's not the way of a Catholic. We're to be salt and light in the world. That means in your job, in your neighborhood. Your life should be a light, a beacon to others. But you have to accept the reality of you are in the world. This is not heaven. It's not going to be comfortable, and frankly, it's not going to be easy.
I'm going to paraphrase Ralph Martin. We did an interview with Dr. Ralph Martin, right? Mm-hmm. Dr. Ralph Martin. It's on our YouTube and Facebook page and on Holy Faith Media. If you look it up, I just saw an interview he did, a 15-minute interview with Raymond Arroyo on The World Over on EWTN. On the record, Joe and I, we love Raymond Arroyo, okay? We think he's a great guy and a great Catholic. And Ralph Martin, we can't say enough about him. That's what Ralph Martin was saying to Raymond Arroyo. When did the church get so comfortable with the world? I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he was saying. Because we're Catholic. When did we get so preoccupied with making friends with people? Now, it's important to try to be friends, okay? However, okay, we have to not worry whether or not we're going to be liked. We're Catholic. We know that at the end of the day, no matter what they say, okay, there's been persecution up and down the church, starting with starting with Christ himself, starting with the apostles and the martyrs, okay? But he made a good point. When did we get so comfortable? When did we allow ourselves to get so comfortable that we're so afraid to open our mouths? It's really not, I'm not saying that we need to always constantly antagonize people, let's say especially in times of peace, but we're not at times of peace. We're in a fight to the death culture war. That's what it is. This country's not going to accommodate this culture war. It's going one way or it's going the other. We're here to say we want it to go in the Christian way. They want it to go in the secular way, which means the evil way. Okay? And that's what we're fighting against. There is no more middle ground. Stop worrying about being liked by everybody. Trust me. I had to learn that lesson from a dear friend of mine a long time ago who criticized me. He said, you just want to be liked by everybody. And he was right. You know what? And when I started to take my faith seriously, I started to not care about that. I want to be liked, but at the end of the day, it's not that important. It's not that important.
We are who we are in the sight of God alone. You see, ultimately, we are who we are. You see, that's truth. We have to speak the truth. Some people will accept it, some people won't. And all you have to say is the door is always open. That's how I look at it with stuff like that. If someone dislikes you because of you speaking the truth in charity, well, the door is always open. But you're not to bend. You shouldn't bend. Jesus didn't bend, but he loved people. He gave them a chance. If someone extends a hand to you after, say, a disagreement because of on a subject, could be, say, abortion, or it could be same-sex marriage or something like that. Maybe down the road, you accept that hand. That's what to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We're Christian. Again, this is not like a litigation case, in arbitration where we're arguing. Yes, we're going to sometimes get heated. Yes, sometimes we're going to, speak some hard truths, but ultimately we have to reflect clarity with charity and truth with charity. It's very important.
I heard this is a great response. I heard this a while ago, a few years ago. A priest was getting berated by someone. I think it was somebody who had left the church. And the priest was getting berated by that person who was saying, he was pointing out all the problems in the church, and this is why I left and everything else. And the priest, with a smile on his face, just didn't try to pick his arguments apart, which he could have done. Okay, what the priest said was, "You're welcome back anytime you like." That guy converted. The priest says the guy went back to him. In other words, to his parish. All right, I'm pretty sure I got the facts right. He went back to his parish. That was the response he gave. You're welcome back anytime you like. Anytime you like. It's like a perfect thing. It's like, because what's the sense in arguing with people sometimes?
Well, you can't.
You ever think you're going to argue with? If somebody comes up to you and says, Joe Ressinello, I want you to answer a question for me. Talk to me about this idea of Jesus Christ being raised from the dead, because I don't believe it. That's one thing. That's one thing. The person's asking you to tell him or her what the teaching is of the Catholic Church on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But if somebody comes up to you and says, I don't believe in that resurrection stuff, it's impossible, I'm into science, I only believe in science, a human body can't be raised from the dead, screw you Catholics. Now you can imagine people saying it, not just saying that, but saying it like that, okay? What do you say to that person? What do you say to that person? The Jesus you don't believe in, he loves you too. And then, because you can't argue with them. You can't argue, no matter how much you might want to, okay? You can't argue with them. Let God penetrate their heart. That person will come back to you.
Only God. You see, I'm going to tell you this too. The best thing you could do is it's consistency. Day in and day out. People see it. Trust me. Day in, day out, year in, year out. People see it. They see the fruit of it in your life. Christ said this very clearly. He said, if you follow me, I am the vine, you are the branch. You will bear fruit, and it will be fruit that will last. That is so true. People who are faithful, whether they're clergy or laity, they bear fruit in their life. And it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with them being faithful. That's it. So here's the deal. People see that, and then the Holy Spirit will work on them. You see, true ecumenicalism is this. We'll take a Jewish person. We don't agree theologically. True ecumenicalism, as defined by Pope Benedict XVI, and I think he said it perfectly, is, but you're my friend. You see, we're not going to resolve our differences because we cannot. I believe in Christ, and I believe it's the truth, and you don't. I can't make you believe in it, and I'm not even going to try. Because it's not going to work. But true ecumenicalism does this. I'll be your friend, though, and we won't even talk about religion. And then the Holy Spirit will work on them. Because there is one religion, in my view, and it's the Catholic religion. Christ, Jesus Christ rose from the dead. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's ecumenicalism, where we respect each other as people. You're my friend, and let him watch you. Let your life speak. And as the days go by, and the years go by, and your friends, that's and the Holy Spirit, because God loves everybody. He loves everybody. That's how you work on people.
Absolutely.
That's the most effective thing.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We're live right now. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and about 23 different platforms altogether. If you like and you want to contribute, you can find us now on Patreon, and the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Patreon, if you'd like to become a monthly subscriber. So having said that, Joe, where are we headed?
Well,
were you done with that, or you want to
actually, no, we'll just talk a couple more. Basically,
Okay.
Padre Pio said, worry is not
I always got
prayer.
to leave time for Padre Pio.
Yes. Don't worry, okay? Jesus forewarned us about division. There's always going to be division. Accept it. Accept the Christian challenge and don't complain about it. Keep the faith. And remember, you could do more things during this time. Pray more, adoration, go to adoration more, or go to adoration. Fast, read the Bible every day, perform acts of mercy. Up your game. These are things you can do. It will lift you. It won't bring you down.
Well, prayer is obviously central. You have to be praying every day. In an ideal world, like I'm doing Exodus 90 right now, now that calls for a holy hour, all right? And that does cut into your day, but that's okay. Some people can do the whole hour. Some people can pray the hour throughout the day. Having said that, prayer is central.
Very much
There's
so.
ascetical practices that could start to wean you off of things that you maybe subconsciously do or unconsciously do that might not be great, might not be sinful, but might not be great for you, okay? There's a whole regimen, some exercise to get our bodies going and get our bodies in shape. That's a great way to start. Lent is coming up. What do you always say? Give up something that pinches a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Let it pinch you a little bit. So prayer, penance, fasting, okay? Stop. Even if it starts with going old school. No meat on Wednesdays and Fridays. How about you just do that? That's what my mom used to do when growing up. All right, all the old Italians used to do that. It wasn't just Friday, and it wasn't just during Lent. It was Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't eat meat. Joe, what do you have? Peanut butter sandwich? Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a tuna sandwich? Or something along those lines?
And it doesn't have to be like a crazy, like, you don't have to, God, sometimes people get wrapped up into the action. It becomes like a strength competition, like you're trying to bench press 300 pounds or something like this. Do something. You don't have to, it's a personal thing, but do it. God sees that. I'm telling you, it also builds discipline. It disciplines yourself. We all need discipline, personal discipline, whether you're a Christian or not. To live a successful life, you have to be in control of yourself. Lent is that time. It opens you up to God.
And that's one of the biggest problems in our culture war right now, is the fact that we have many, many people. God bless them. We need to pray for them, and we need to encourage them, okay? Their passions control their reason. Their reason does not control their passions. None of us are perfect in that regard. But it's one thing to accept that. And if you do accept that, you're just going to fall deeper and deeper into being a slave of your passions. There's a big difference between that and sinning. Okay? Where occasionally you are weak, let's say for argument's sake, overwhelmed by either lust or whatever the case may be. That's a different story, okay? But that's still not an example of your passions controlling your reason. You must go through life and wake up every day understanding that this controls your passions, okay? And the problem is a lot of people are caught up in that. Pornography, the internet, okay? And I'm talking about stupid internet. I'm not talking about good shows like The Frontline with Joe and Joe or Holy Faith Media. In other words, where you're getting informed of something that needs to, or you're talking about something that needs to be talked about. We're slaves to so many things in this country, and many people, quite frankly, are blind to their slavery. They're blind to it. That's why sometimes we need to point it out. You got again, lovingly, but you got to point it out. Say, hey, you think that's a really good idea to have your nose in your computer all the time? Or have your nose in your phone all the time. So it's very important that we unshackle ourselves from those things that take up our time and our energy, which ultimately could lead to our destruction. We don't want that.
And one last untapped resource is church teaching. Not enough of us know our faith. Read what the popes have to say. Read church teaching. When I say people, Aquinas, St. Augustine. Read, you could begin with Pope Leo the 13th onward. A lot of these encyclicals have deep insights. We have all the answers. I'm telling you this right now. The Catholic Church is the truth. It's the truth. And many people read themselves into the Catholic Church. But here's the thing. You got to open up the book. We're in a time where everything is available to us. You could buy books. They're a great, great Catholic resource. Ignatius Press, Tan Books, Sophia Institute. They give us a lot of folks to do interviews with on our show. We have a good relationship with Sophia Institute Press. So I'm saying use the teachings. They're so rich. They're an untapped resource. It's a good thing to do during Lent. Pick up an encyclical, read the Psalms, read one of the early church fathers. It gives you the answers. It shows you there is no tension between faith and reason.
Yeah, no tension whatsoever. We spoke to E. Michael Jones about that. There is an interview from a few months ago on both Joe and Joe's page on Facebook and YouTube and on Holy Faith Media. And I was just reminded to let everybody know this upcoming Saturday, February 13th at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we're gonna have a conversation with E. Michael Jones and Dr. Marek Hodekiewic, okay, who fought together in Poland to defeat gay marriage. Now that's pretty big, okay? And Poland's one of those countries that we want to talk about because they are actually stepping up. They are fighting the culture war on a national level. They're fighting against the EU. So is Hungary. So is Rick DeSantis down in Florida. But anyway, we want to keep it with that. E. Michael Jones, 5 o'clock this Saturday with Dr. Marek Hodekiewic. That's going to be a barn burner of a conversation.
Oh, that will be.
Yeah, and again, we're bringing up, somebody, Holy Faith Media reminded me, E. Michael Jones talks about that all the time. If we don't get to the point as individual people where we realize through God's grace that our reason controls our passion, we cannot fight this fight. We can't do it. We got to get that straight. So ask God for the grace to start thinking that way and start, more importantly, acting that way.
This is a great story we came across. This is the CEO from Gab. It's like one of the new social media platforms out there. He had a lot of very important things to say. He said, basically, we need to start building a Christian economy. I just want to give you some insight into this dude. His name is Andrew Torba. He's the company. This is what he says. He says the company we are talking about, obviously it's Gab, which is an online community where freedom of speech is paramount, with no fact checking of political opinions, news, history, math problems, memes, or anything like that. This guy, Andrew Torba, the CEO, when he signs his commentaries, this is what he puts.
Love it.
Christ, Jesus is king. This dude is so spot on. These are some of the things he said, and I have to read them because they're fantastic. He absolutely gets it. He said, recently his company has been dumped by a bank, a server hardware company, an infrastructure analyst, software operation, and an accountant. This is what he says. He says, this is what he basically says, all of this, he says, is God working to separate the wheat from the chaff. He's right. And you know something? It goes to what we were just talking about. He accepts the plan. You see, he accepts it. Christ said that you'll be persecuted. It's part of the deal. He accepts it and he trusts the plan. We have to too. We have to do exactly the same thing. He says this deplatforming inevitably reforms Gab into an even more resilient community, business, and platform. We don't just sit around and whine when things happen. We immediately go to work.
Stop right there.
Perfect.
That is one of the biggest things. In other words, see, there's a lot of people who might look at our solutions here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, particularly because we talk about God first and the necessity of praying to God to help us in this culture war, okay? That ain't whining. That's asking for the help that we actually need, which is supernatural help, okay? There's a lot of people out there, Joe. They're only whining. They offer no solutions. Even to throw out a solution that may or may not work, but at least to try. Like, we offer some solutions mainly because we're trying to encourage Catholic men and other men of goodwill, all right, to really step up in this culture war, okay? So what we're trying to do is offer solutions that can make you a better soldier in the culture war. But that's at least offering the solution. Prayer and fasting, okay? Getting yourself in better physical shape, reading more, as Joe just said, reading Augustine or Aquinas, okay? Even evangelicals and Protestants read Aquinas and Saint Augustine, okay? I got my tongue there for a second. But at least we're offering a solution, okay? So that we could begin to come together and fight this fight and be prepared to do so. That's what Torb is saying here. In other words, how many people out there, Joe, are just whining and offer no solutions? Some of them are on what's called conservative cable news because they don't offer solutions, or at least they don't offer any solutions that are practical. In other words, and I don't want to pick on anybody, so we'll just keep it general right now, but there's some conservative commentators out there that talk about, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, but you're the one with the money and the platform, but you don't want to form, let's say, some sort of a group to try to do that, okay? You just want to sit there and whine and worry about your ratings. Well, at least Joe and I are trying to offer some sort of solutions, and many other people out there are trying to offer solutions too, and this guy, Torba, gets it. Stop whining. Start doing.
Also, he says the problem is that many Christians think that to be in the world but not of the world means very important. He says, giving our money, time, and data to our enemies. This has got to stop right now.
That's a non-negotiable.
Look at the brands that you basically spend money on. Look at the companies that you basically, use. Go with local companies. Why do you give money to people that hate you? They hate you. I got news for you. Cut them off.
Here's the biggest one, though, that bothers me. Okay, I can get, and real quick, Eileen's in the chat room. She said the U.S. Grace Force also has great warrior building programs. Absolutely. Father Heilman and Doug Barry? Absolutely, Eileen. So we highly recommend U.S. Grace Force. Don't leave here to go and watch it. Watch it after we're done. But what were we saying?
No, it's saying not giving money to our enemies.
Oh,
they are our enemies.
But here's an easy
us.
one. Let's say, for argument's sake, and I'm just going to concede for a moment, you want to buy a product on Amazon because Amazon's the only one that has it. Okay? We have to get away from Amazon, but leave that aside for a second. Okay, it's a product you need. You're going to get it from Amazon. You have it delivered. Okay, fine. Okay, I understand that to a certain degree. Why do we even think about putting money in Hollywood's pocket?
Why do we give it to Disney?
Why? I got rid of Hulu. My wife wanted to watch the Super Bowl because she's a Brady fan. She's a New England Patriots fan, so she wants to root for Brady, okay? We haven't watched football all year. She wanted to watch the Super Bowl, okay? Do you know what kind of a problem I had? Because I got rid of Hulu, okay, and I was trying to find the Super Bowl using the smart TV without Hulu. Guess why? Because Disney owns Hulu, and Disney is our enemy. So what did I do? I don't spend $60 a month anymore on Hulu. Okay, and I have another service now, and we had a hell of a time trying to find the Super Bowl for my wife, but we found it. My point is, drop the hammer on them. Now, it's just $60 from Joe Pasillo, but what if it was $60 million from 1 million people that can hear our voice and say, you know what, I don't want to put money in Disney's pocket. There's such easy ones that we could do. Hollywood's the easiest one as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
It's so hard to fight against the public education establishment because you're dealing with law and contracts and judges that stand in the way. And then there's so many different things like that. Hollywood, that's a choice. That's an easy choice.
And like I said, they hate you. They're poisoning our youth. In plain English, why do you give them money? This is what Torba said. He says, I'm in the process of transitioning every part of my financial expenses to support Christian businesses, Christian media companies, Christian content creators, and Christian people. I'm done giving money to the enemy and funding the destruction of our country and values. I encourage everyone else to do the same. If they are not serving God, they are serving Satan, and I'm simply not going to fund that activity.
Hold on. Boom.
That is
Mic
it.
drop.
That is it. I got news for you. Stop giving them money.
Yeah, but
I'm
if you call Hollywood Satan, I just want to let you know they're going to say that you're. They already know that we're. I guess what?
Oh, they hate us.
They hate us anyway. They'll call us all sorts of names that we don't want to use here because we don't want to get Holy Faith Media deplatformed. But you're definitely part of that Q group. In other words, that one that's going around. Because for you to say that Hollywood serves Satan, okay, that would definitely got us in a lot of trouble. And we don't care. We don't care. Okay, but the thing is, but yeah, and he's got it exactly right. If you're not serving God, and very simply by cutting these people off, just very simple.
I'm telling you, this is because here's the thing, guys. We talked about being in reality. I'm going to give you reality. Corporations care about money. That's it. All these woke corporations, you take away their money, they will immediately drop the woke issue. Guaranteed.
Look at the NBA. We bring it up all the time. Perfect example.
Perfect example.
Right.
I'm telling you this right now.
You're not going to see Black Lives Matter Inc. sprawled across the basketball
It was
court
a
next
loser.
year. Because it's a loser for them. They get to say and they get the virtue signal and say, we supported all the social justice. We supported Black Lives Matter. But now we got to get back to making money because we lost 30% of our fans and we lost 30% in our ratings. When we need to get that money back.
And here's another thing, last thing I want to touch on with Torba. He says this: we're commanded to hate which is evil and not fund it and give our time to it. You see, there are bad things. Call them out. Don't support them. I'm telling you this. This is a step, because I'm going to tell you this. Sign. We're going to sign a petition. Do this. Who cares? Those people just laugh at that.
You know who does it effectively? I will say, and he gets, what he does is he doesn't get you to sign a petition. He gives you the person's email so that you can bombard them with email, and all of a sudden they got 100,000 emails in their inbox, which they probably don't want because it's from guys like us. Okay, Bill Donahue, and guess what? Now you see, you have to watch who's successful and who's not. Conservative boycotts are never successful because they're disorganized. Okay. It's just like a patchwork of different groups. It's disorganized, and you have other conservatives, like conservatives on Fox News, let's say, that tell you that boycotts don't work because they certainly don't want to disrupt the free market, because that's the knee, or that's the idol that they bend their knee to. Okay, but Bill Donahue will say, here's a woman putting across legislation in Missouri. In other words, that's going to fund Planned Parenthood or something, or do something crazy in the transgender arena, right? Here's her email, and let her know what you think. And then 2 weeks later, he comes on, you get a report from Bill Donahue and says, they backed down in Missouri, and that bill was pulled. Now, why am I bringing it up? Because you know that state assembly person or that state senator got so many emails, and they said, I can't deal with this stuff. And they pulled it. See, now that's not signing a petition. That's sending an email to an elected representative, and I remember I did it one time. I forgot what the situation was. They were picking on the Catholic Church, and I just sent an email. I said, Dear so-and-so, leave my Catholic Church alone. Sincerely, Joe Pasillo. And I just sent it. Good. But my point is that it worked because you contacted them directly, and you let them know what you think. Now, that's different. You're right about signing petitions. Petitions don't mean anything. I could write my name. I could write 100,000 names on a piece of paper. That doesn't mean anything. Either directly get in these people's faces, let's say through an email campaign, or more importantly, take their money away.
Take their money. I'm telling you, that's the key.
And the banks are next. The banks are next. We're not going to cover it tonight. All of a sudden, Bank of America is giving the Department of Justice the banking records of people that were in D.C. on January 6th. Are you smoking crack? And then they tried to legalize it. They tried to give you the legalese. Well, we are heavily regulated. A, that's a violation of I don't know how many different amendments to the Constitution. You're violating my privacy. You're giving my information to the DOJ.
I can't even believe this is going on in this country, dude. I'll be truthful with you. Even if you're an objective Democrat, this should disturb you. This is absurd. I can't even believe that this is going on in America right now. I really can't.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And the problem is we're allowing it. Now we're allowing it on a bunch of different levels, political, but now we're talking about in the area of economics, where we have control over the money we spend. Okay, we just have to start spending it in the right way. We have to be good stewards of our own money. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, and again, might start with just you yourself, just saying, you know what, I found out this company's really not doing it right. Like, I'll tell you right now, Bank of America should be dropped by everybody listening to our voice. Now, I recently got rid of Bank of America for my mom for a couple of different other reasons, but in hindsight, I'm glad that I did. I would have dropped the hammer on them anyway. You're giving our information to the Justice Department because I was in D.C. for a rally with a sitting president of the United States? Is that some sort of a sick joke?
That's absurd.
That's what we're dealing with. So anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. We are way, way, way into the breach. Please follow us on Facebook and YouTube at the front line with Joe and Joe. Follow Holy Faith Media on both Facebook and YouTube also. And please, if you like, when this video is over, stick with us to the end. We have a few more stories to cover. Share this video with your friends in your groups. If you think we have something to say, then by all means, let's get the message out there.
This is a great story. Basically, they're talking about, this is about big tech and how we have to overturn big tech. And let's talk about some places where that's going on. Poland is one place. And we're also going to talk about Hungary because they're doing the same exact thing. Basically, the Deputy Minister of Justice in Poland, Sebastian Kalada, who is spearheading there's new legislation now, basically confirmed that every time an algorithm is used to limit reach, the user will be informed if and why his reach is being limited. The Polish government has previously confirmed that its new laws against tech censorship will give Polish citizens a statutory right to appeal against bans and content removal if their speech was lawful under the Polish Constitution. With a new free speech board able to order tech firms to restore removed accounts and content on the pains of huge fines.
This is huge.
This is big, and this is
and we're gonna go through this. This story's gonna take a few minutes because we're gonna start with Poland and Hungary, and then we're gonna go down to Florida. So don't think this is just overseas. It's the Freedom Act, by the way. Just so everybody knows, if after the show, not now, it's the Freedom Act. That's Poland's legislation. Why is that important? Let's say, for argument's sake, after this show is over, okay, Joe and I are in the godforsaken state of New Jersey, okay? Having said that, if we go on our YouTube page, and I said from the beginning, I am not patting Joe and I on the back. I am not. I have a little bit more time on my hands than Joe does, okay? I don't have children. Everybody, or most people know my wife and I are in the process of fostering to adopt. Joe's got 4 children under 6, okay? I have a little bit more time on my hands. And I tried like the Dickens. I'm talking about everything. To spread news, to spread our videos on Facebook and YouTube and everything else. And I'm saying I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying I wouldn't be shocked if we were shadow banned. Now, can you imagine if we had a law in this godforsaken state of New Jersey that when we go on and we go on YouTube and there's a notification that comes up in our notifications box and it says Frontline with Joe and Joe. We limited your reach because you said X, Y, or Z. Marriage is between one man or one woman. What they're saying in Poland is, okay, if it's lawful if that speech is lawful under the laws of the nation of Poland, and Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or any one of them, okay, in the borders of Poland, any Polish citizen restricts that same speech that's allowed under Polish law, that big tech firm gets fined. And the fines they're talking about, yes, they wouldn't, because you remember something, it would be on an individual basis. So let's say I was in Poland and I got flagged, and they can't show that I violated the laws of the country of Poland. Okay, they get fined $100,000 for me, but then if it happens to Joe, they get fined $100,000 for him. You see how it works? You see how you could fight back? You see how Poland gets it? Again, this is a country that
But
has
it's also money.
Well, it's money, but I'm making more of a point. I know what you're saying, but I'm making more of a point about their stones, okay? Because their courage comes from Christ. I believe Christ is mentioned specifically in their constitution,
He's
okay?
declared the king of their country.
He's declared the king of their country. Why do you think they have courage, okay? To tell big tech, if you do this to our citizens, you're going to pay. Getting back to what Joe said about money.
And Hungary's doing the same thing. They basically confirmed that they'll take action to prevent shadow banning of Christian conservative right-wing voices online.
Christian conservative right wing. You just mentioned in America. You just described about 150 million people, 80 million of whom voted for the Orange Man.
And sadly, the media has basically, this is the problem. They've painted these people as enemies. Listen, I don't agree with the left, but you're free to say it. I'm just confident that my ideas are better. I'm sorry.
But isn't that why they want to stifle free speech?
Exactly.
Because they know.
Because they know.
They're lying.
I got news for you, and I forget who said this. If Donald Trump was given a fair... First of all, let's go back to what we originally said. We have to accept reality, okay?
Yeah,
reality
you hear that?
is this.
You hear that, YouTube?
You're never going to get a fair shake in the media. Accept
Ever.
the reality. It's a reality. I used to 10 years ago be like, oh my gosh, the New York Times isn't being fair to the Catholic Church. No, they never will be.
Right.
It's reality. However, we'll talk fantasy for a moment. If Donald Trump was given a fair chance in the media, oh my gosh, he would have crushed it. Crushed it. I mean, to a degree.
To a degree, there wouldn't have even been a question.
I mean,
now again, we're not going to get into that here. We want our show
and I'm
to stay
talking
on.
pure policy.
Right, we're just talking
policy.
about. If the media was fair, I'll give you a better example. Newt Gingrich said it. I trust Newt Gingrich. I remember he said
smart.
it in 2012. No, not 2012. In 2016, during the campaign, he said if the media was fair in America, Trump would be leading Hillary by 10 points. If the media was fair, but they're not fair. Neither is big tech. How do you ban the New York Post on Twitter when this is a legitimate newspaper, the fourth largest newspaper in the United States? Okay, these are journalists and not a rag. It's journalism.
Major
when they were reporting
market.
on Hunter Biden and the bombshell about Hunter Biden, and Twitter took the New York Post and deplatformed them.
And you're
now,
fine
if you
with that?
did that in Poland, guess what, Jack Dorsey? You're paying.
I mean, and that's what they understand. You see, it goes back to money. You see, they don't care about what's right. They care about what's right for them. Find them, they'll stop the practice. You see, that's what they get.
Right.
You have to find them. You strangle them financially. That's what you do.
And we have the power to do it.
And
nobody's going to tell me that amongst, let's just say, leave it not just with Catholics, all people of goodwill in America. To be defined as what you
because I remember like when Obama with what was it with the Lebanon Benghazi.
Oh, okay, Benghazi.
And I remember when that took place, like they put it in like page 30 in the New York Times.
Think that would have been a big deal?
And then they just upped the ante with Hunter Biden. They just banned it. I mean, this is again America, and people are okay with that. You see, again, if you're an objective person, sadly most people aren't. You should be like, damn, that was effed up. Damn, I can't believe that. You're not holding this guy accountable. Don't you want to know the truth? And then they basically label you a lunatic if you question.
Well, they're in the process of that now. We've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. So the media knows they're liars. So when people like us, all of us, say, you know what, you guys are a bunch of liars. You suppress stories. You lie about Orange Man. You lie about us. You lie about all these things. Their only response, because they know, Jim Acosta in his heart knows he's a liar. He knows that. The same with Tapper and the rest of them. And Brian Stelter. They all know they're lying. They all know that in a legitimate debate, straight up debate, no filters, no nothing, straight up debate, somebody who's pointing out all their lies to them, that they will have no defense. So what is their defense? We need to deprogram people because half this country voted for Donald Trump. You're going to deprogram me because I called you out on your lies? Because we all know that you're liars?
That is
because
such a scary statement.
Right.
I can't
Jim
even
Acosta's
believe.
going to deprogram me?
I can't even believe that is acceptable speech. You want to talk about what's acceptable speech and what isn't acceptable speech? I can't even believe that that's said publicly.
Right. But then, no, not only is it said publicly, Joe, it's trumpeted. You got the New York Times saying it. You got CNN saying it. You got MSNBC saying it. And you have people, Joe, they look very serious when they say it, too. You know, these people who voted for Donald Trump, they just absolutely, I don't know what it's going to take, but I think they need to be deprogrammed. Excuse me? What do you think? Because you're not wearing black pajamas and we're not in the jungles of Cambodia? In other words, and you got me in a prison camp? What do you think? That you're going to deprogram 80, 100, 120, 150 million Americans? Do you really believe that?
I can't believe. I can't even believe that that's said publicly in America. That should scare you. I'll be truthful with you. Because here's the thing. Things can flip. I think we're at a very dangerous point. And frankly, I think it's statements like that should scare the living daylights out of American people.
That's why what we have to do. See, when Joe's talking about being scared, okay? Yeah, I'm not. We're not scared people, but I'm fearful of that. I don't want to go. Remember the novel 1984? I think it was Room 108, Room 101, or Room 108. That was the room you didn't want to get brought into. Okay, and poor Winston got dragged into there where he gets to see his worst fear. He kind of fell in line after that. Okay, I don't want to get dragged in there, but this is a very fearful thing. Okay, we all have loved ones. Okay, we all have loved ones who are of a younger generation, and we want them to grow up in a place that's good and free. Okay, not just free, but good and free. I don't want the Jim Acostas of the world getting their hands on my nieces and my nephews and my little cousins and everything else. In other words, to try to deprogram them, or with them it'll be like indoctrination. With us, it'll be deprogramming. But as Joe said, let's bring this back, and God bless Poland. Okay. By the way, before I bring it back here, remember, Saturday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we are going to be talking about Poland with Dr. E. Michael Jones and Dr. Marek Hodeckiewicz. They fought against gay marriage in Poland, and they won. But let's bring it back to the United States. Joe's talking about being fearful of them dragging you into that, hypothetical Room 108, okay? But now, what do they fear? What's Joe been saying for the last 15 minutes, okay? They fear when you seek to use the law to take their money. Now, when you personally don't spend money and put money in their pockets, but also when the government starts stepping up, okay? So let's talk about Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis, because if there's a guy in American politics that gets it, that guy gets it.
He absolutely does. He basically announced a major push to curb big tech's political bias and censorship, with measures including a ban on the censorship of political candidates and a mandatory opt-out for content filters for Floridians. Here's some of the regulations he just announced. A private right of action for Florida citizens against tech companies that violate this condition. Fines of upwards to $100,000 a day.
Now, that's a private right of action. That means if they can't show me, in other words, what I did wrong, okay, I, as a private citizen, have a right to act and sue them directly under Florida law. Okay? That's not just the government, let's say, fining them $100,000. I have the right to sue them directly for them taking away my right to free speech. Go ahead.
These also greater transparency requirements, disclosure requirements, which will be enforced by Florida's election authorities for tech companies that favor one candidate over another.
That's important.
That is so dangerous. Like, this is, again, as an objective American, I don't know how you could be for that. Also, he gave power to the Florida Attorney General to bring cases against tech companies that violate these conditions under this Unfair and Deceptive Practice Act. Here's another thing which I wanted to point out when I read this. Why isn't every single Republican and Democrat doing this? Honestly, ask yourself that. Even Democrats, because here's the reason why I use that now. You have power now, but you're not going to forever. The Republicans can use this against you. Times change, my friend. It could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, but it will change.
But Joe, remember one thing, though, about the left. Remember one thing about them. They will do what they can in the moment, and they know that. They know about the idea of the shoe being on the other foot, okay? Harry Reid is the one who ended the filibuster for judges.
Big mistake, Harry.
And McConnell turned around and he said, "Hey, I'm just doing what Harry Reid said was, did back in whatever it was, 2013. Same with holding hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. Mitch McConnell said, not Amy Coney Barrett, Merrick Garland in 2016, Obama's last year. And Mitch McConnell said, we're not going to hold hearings for Merrick Garland. Well, why are you saying that, Mr. Senator McConnell? Because we're invoking the Biden rule. We're invoking the Biden rule. That was what Joe Biden said over 10 years ago. So that's what we're using his rule. We're not making it up. We're using his rule. And again, they didn't know what to do. Okay? So the point is that, the reason why they know that eventually the shoe's going to be on the other foot and they're going to be in the minority. I'll ask all you and I'll ask Joe Resinello. What's the biggest reason why they know they could get away with it in the moment and then be able to change the narrative down the road?
Press.
That's it. The media. They know they have a willing media so that when they flip, when they know that most reasonable people like us would turn and say, well, wait a minute. You held a different position 2 years ago or last year or yesterday, okay? You held a different position yesterday. How are you changing it today? They know they could stifle our speech because CNN and the rest of them, all right? And I don't know where Fox News is. I haven't watched Fox News in I don't know how many months now. But MSNBC and the rest of them, okay, they're just going to let them go ahead and do it. It's one of the biggest reasons why the big media in this country, along with big tech, needs to start suffering fines like the ones DeSantis is going to try to impose on them in the state of Florida. But I think it's a big step forward. I firmly believe.
No, but he gets it. But
he gets it, and at the very least, he's showing that they're fighting back. And there's a lot more red state governors than there are blue state governors. So big tech better get it through his head, because DeSantis starts getting on the phone with some like-minded people. Big tech could lose a big part of America, all right, if they all come together and maybe start imposing laws and regulations like this within those states.
I think also they got caught up in basically the moment. I think it was a bad mistake, because I'll tell you right now, eventually the GOP will get power again. They're going to break them up. Why make the enemies? I got news for you. If I am Jack Dorsey, if I am Zuckerberg, I'm going to tell you right now, this is my answer. I'm here to make money. I'm telling you this right now. That's what I would say. We are a corporation. I am not a politician. I have a board of directors, and I have to produce a dividend. So guess what? I am not a Republican or a Democrat when I come to work. I am the CEO of this company, and I'm going to do what's best to make money for my shareholders. They're not being responsible, if you ask me. And if I was on that board, and by the way, Twitter's stock, after they deplatformed Trump and all the other stuff, it went down considerably. I would have had a fit if I was on that board. I would have been like, Jack, and guess what? They can do that. That's why you have a board.
Right.
I would have been like, Jack, stop being a politician and run the company. Or, Jack, we will throw you out of your own company.
That's right.
They can.
And you know the statement they have to come out and make? Let's just say Twitter, because that's really where the heart of it is. Twitter, Facebook, and Google. Okay. The statement they have to make is very simple. Our platform is an open platform. We do not agree with much or most of what is said on our platform. But unless someone is inciting another person or group to violence, they're allowed to say it on our platform.
In their twisted head, this is where the craziness, Joe. They actually believe. I actually think they're sincere in what they think that we are doing that.
So if you say that marriage is between one man and one woman, that's inciting violence.
Well, that's a violent statement.
Or we know this, we've covered it on the show before, misgendering somebody. We've been told that that's an act of violence.
And it's
so you think that they
honest to goodness, in their head, they believe, if you believe in traditional marriage, which by the way is a pervasive idea across the globe.
Because it's true.
A pervasive idea across the globe for centuries, okay? If you believe that, you are a person that is inciting violence. You're inciting hate. Joe Biden, this is a story we're going to be covering on the Crusade channel tomorrow, basically said, and this is how twisted it is, he said that transgenderism is the civil rights issue of today. No, Joe. Transgenderism is a disorder. And don't listen to me. Listen to Johns Hopkins University.
Follow the science, Joe Biden. You keep telling us about COVID. Follow the science.
It's the best medical school, arguably, in the world. It's not the civil rights issue of the century. You've turned it into a woke, crazy idea. These people should be respected. These people should be able to get jobs. They should have rights. But to say that a woman is a man and a man is a woman, and to force me to acknowledge that, is insane.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And they will say, and I'm glad you brought up, they will say, because what I proposed was what they should have said and what they probably did say a very long time ago when they first either were founded or came public. We're an open platform. That means if 100 million people on YouTube want to follow the Orange Man, they can. If, God willing, 100 million people on Google or Twitter want to follow the Frontline with Joe and Joe, they can. If you want to follow Antifa, you can. If you want to follow BLM, you can. If you want to exclude people and not friend them, that's up to you. If you want to set your own filters, you could do it for yourself. You could do that, but it's an open platform. That means if Donald Trump gets up there and he tweets, guess what? You got to leave it up there, Dorsey. You got to leave it up there, Zuckerberg, because if you don't, you're violating your covenants. And leave that aside. If you don't, then you're violating. DeSantis is saying now you're violating state law. And guess what? If you violate state law and if you violate the rights of Floridians on your platform, we're going to find you, and we're going to find you heavy.
And what DeSantis is doing is what the Democrats did to Donald Trump. They changed the voting rules before the election, right before our eyes. That's what they did. They changed the game before the game was played. DeSantis is doing it now. What he's going to do is he says, it's my state. I'm going to make the rules whereby, make the law and pass it, whereby I am not going to permit you to do this. Every single GOP governor should be doing the same. And if you ask me, the Democrats should be doing the same.
It's
Democrats, bad business.
But the Democrats aren't going to do that. The Democrats aren't going to do that.
No,
I know what you are saying. You're right. They should. There are some Democrats that are not as insane as Nancy Pelosi, but they're not going to do that. I just want to address Sean Marie in the chat room. Sean, I'm not living off the grid. Okay, I'm not saying you're proposing a Benedict option or that we go live in the woods somewhere. I'm not saying I'm not living off the grid. Now, I'm in the world, I'm not of the world, or at least that's where I'm trying to get to. There are things we could do in the world without going off the grid. We could start setting up our own local businesses, our own local corporations. We could start having our elected officials do the job of deregulation of some of the banks so we can open new banks that are, let's say, funded and who are not discriminated against by the Fed. In other words, who are not woke banks, okay? All sorts of things. We have more money than them. Just so you know, okay? They might have it more concentrated with a few people. But at the end of the day, we have more money than them. We control more of this economy than they do. Why do you think they're always trying to steal our labor? Particularly the Chamber of Commerce and all the globalists are trying to steal our labor because they know that our labor produces wealth and they are envious and jealous and they're lustful for the wealth that we create for our families. So they always want to take portions of it, okay? We could create a parallel economy. It would take time, but we could start doing it. We can. We don't have to go off the grid, Sean. I say this, we love you, we respect you, not going off the grid. I'm not going to fight bears in the woods. I'm just not doing it, all right? And even though I like that guy on social media, the one who cooks out in the woods, that guy's a mean cook. I want him to cook me a steak and bring it down here to Jersey, okay? I'm not going in the woods to eat it. So anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, and we're having a great conversation. We're an hour into it, and we are way into the breach. Please follow Joe and I on Facebook and YouTube. Follow Holy Faith Media, and we flashed the Patreon the Patreon link that you could go to if you want to contribute to the success of the Frontline with Joe and Joe. So where are we headed, Joe?
Well, let's talk a little bit about a school in Illinois. The school is it's like one of those high profile magnet schools. It's very prestigious. It's called the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy. It's in Aurora, Illinois.
Now, example of fighting back. Fighting back. Go, Joe.
Basically, you have like this school, and they're making this girl. The girl's name is Markel McBride, and they're making her take a sex ed class that her parents don't want her to have to take.
Now, there's a slickness going on here. There's a slickness going on here that we'll get into in a second. But go ahead, Joe. You see where the story is going.
But here's the thing, and I found interesting about this story. They're making it very difficult for her to opt out of it. But the law of Illinois says this: no pupil shall be required to take or participate in any class or course in comprehensive sex education if his or her parent submits written objection to it. And they're making this basically a requirement.
But do you see how they're doing it? Like, again, they see this is where we need to fight back against them. They understand the law. This is not a course, by the way. It's not a course where I think you get a grade for it. Okay, it's a program. So it's a program. Remember when we were kids, the cop used to come in and he used to open his suitcase and he had the drugs. So he had the marijuana, he had the amphetamines, he had the barbiturates, he had all the drugs, and he explained them all. Okay, that was a program. That was an after-school program or a during-school program. It wasn't a class though. You didn't get graded on it. Okay, and that guy used to come in every year. They're trying to say that this is not a class. She can't be penalized one way or the other. In other words, by a grade. Okay, it's a program. Go ahead, Joe. What's the reward if you go to the program, and what's the penalty if you don't go to the program?
I mean, they're pressuring her that she has to take it. She has to complete the program or face punishment. You see, again, this is the thing that kills me about this stuff, and this is what should make you think. Okay, I am a Catholic man. I don't force myself on you. I don't. I'm telling you that right now. If you don't want to believe in God, if you want to live like a lunatic on this earth and do whatever the hell you want, which will ultimately destroy you, I'm just telling you that. That's a fact. But if you want to do that, you're free to. God gives us free will. Why are you imposing yourself on me? Really, honestly. Why are you imposing yourself on my kids?
Because they're Marxists.
No, I know that,
and
what you said is
100% reasonable.
I'm appealing to just people of objective, like who are trying, like any human. This is all I'm saying. Why are you imposing yourself in a public school where we all pay taxpayer dollars? We all do. I do. You do. Whatever you think, feel. Politically, whatever. We all put that taxpayer money into the kitty. Why are you imposing your will on me?
Because you're right. And you said the key thing. If you're talking to somebody who's reasonable, somebody who's objective, anybody who's promoting this program knows that Markel McBride's parents don't want her to be in this program. They know that going into it. They know they're going to get pushback. You're talking about a law that, by the way, just to show you how unpopular this stuff is, that's a law in the state of Illinois. Now, last time I checked, the state of Illinois is a blue state.
As blue as it gets.
But yet, in Illinois, there is a law that says unless you have written permission from the parent, that their child does not have to take that class. Now, that pertains to a class. They're trying to dress it up as a program, okay? But it shows you something. That even in Illinois, they don't go for this crap.
Because parents are you see, this is
because parents, even a liberal parent, if you push them back and say, "Do you want your 8-year-old son to come home one day and tell you, Mommy, I feel like I'm a girl"?
It's also like, know what it is? These are things that they didn't. These, I'll be honest with you, where they overplayed their hand. And I'll give you another example. It's like kids' safety. You want to take away police or policing? What happens if at a school, because of your new programs, there's a shooting? Kids die, okay? Oh, they're going to blame the guns, whatever.
Because the gun shot itself.
My point is, we need cops. And you're talking about the safety of children. It's stuff like this that politics gets thrown out the window. talking about explicit sex to a child.
Well, Joe,
whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, that should bother you.
Well, listen, just catch this crap for a second, okay? Quote, students participating in the program use, as Joe mentioned, sexual language to identify sexual preferences and gender identity. This is what First Liberty, the group that's fighting against this, said. Quote, in identifying the stages of allyship. Now, there's newspeak for you.
That?
Allyship. I know what friendship is. I don't know what allyship, but see, we'll get into it in a second, okay? Allyship. The program classifies anyone who believes homosexuality is sinful or immoral as being in the same category or as those who are repulsed by it or think it's crazy. The program offers students the opportunity to become an ally, recording the students who agree and rewarding them for their affirmation with a safe zone sticker and pin. Ooh, I want my kid to have one of those. And the program thus does not respect differing religious beliefs about gender and sexuality. And here's the thing, pressures students to affirmatively signal their agreement with the curriculum. Here's the point. They're telling kids, all kids want to belong. Every kid wants to belong. So what are they doing? They know that, these coercive sons of beasts, okay? They know that. Oh, if you don't participate, we're not going to give you a pin. We're not going to give you a safe zone sticker. And your friends are not going to want to come near you because you think that this is crazy. You see where they're going with this? But now if you say this to a 13-year-old girl or a 10-year-old girl or a 12-year-old girl, okay, you can, number one, do damage. And number two, you're going to get what you want because the little girl, she doesn't know any better. She doesn't have any ill will. In other words, and that's what makes it even more nefarious, because remember what Jesus said, woe to him by whom sin comes to any of these little ones. Better that a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown in the ocean. You're bringing this crap, this darkness, this perversion, this sin to a 13-year-old girl and convincing her that it's virtue? You're going to have to answer to Christ.
And it's funny, and this is like the new patriotism that the media is selling to our country, and this is why they're the enemy of the American people. People actually believe that you are being a patriot. There are segments of our society by participating in that.
Right.
This is the new civil rights movement. No, it's not, people. I'm sorry. No, it's not.
And you know who's the first? You know who the first group of people to objectively say that? African Americans. There's a lot of African Americans say, don't equate this LGBT agenda with the civil rights movement. All right? And those people who do that are under attack. This is not a civil rights movement. You don't want civil rights. You already have equality.
They should have the rights. Every person who identifies as a homosexual, as an individual, should have every right that everyone else has as an individual, not as a married person. As an individual, which means you have a right to a job, you have a right to
well, you have the right to pursue it.
Yeah. All the things
well,
that every single person has, you should have that right.
You shouldn't be unjustly discriminated against.
No way.
But they don't believe that because they'll unjustly discriminate against you if you call yourself a Christian. That's what this group here in Illinois is saying. Okay, they're saying that they'll discriminate against Michaela McBride's parents and her because they don't care about her religious beliefs. Let me tell you something. You know who has privilege right now in America? LGBT has privilege right now in America. They are a higher group than we are, okay? And they know it. And then with stuff like this, what they're doing is they're putting the boot in your face. They're not discriminated against. You don't have a right to get married because you don't know what marriage is. You don't have the right to define what marriage is. You don't have the right to raise a child because the child has the right to a mother and a father. So you don't have the right to adopt children. Do you have the right to walk down the street and not to get the crap beat out of you? Absolutely. I would be there, and if I knew you were gay and you were about to get beat up, I would defend you. Okay? You do not have the right to be assaulted in the street. You do not have, in other words, no one has the right to discriminate against you in the workplace. Okay? And let's say unjustly discriminate against you. Nobody's calling for that. But you don't respect anybody else's rights, but you want to complain that your rights are being trampled on because you can't get married in the eyes of, let's say, Joe and I and the Catholic Church and many other people out there. You're the ones that enjoy more rights out there than anybody else right now. You have more rights than black people. I don't know what civil rights you're complaining about. Black people are still getting trampled on left and right. You guys aren't. So I don't even know what you're saying. It gets tiresome. The bully is calling us the bullies. I would tell Dan Savage that right to his face. You're the bully, yet you accuse everybody else of being bullying. You are the bully. You. All the LGBT mafia, the LGBT rage mob, they are the bullies. And we know that they don't care about homosexuality, that they're really Marxists, because we covered it last week. Look at what Antifa did to Andy Ngo. They beat the crap out of this kid who's a homosexual conservative journalist, okay? They beat the crap out of him, and the LGBT rage mob didn't have one word to say about it. They let that homosexual get beat up. You want to know why? Because he's deplorable.
Last story of the night.
I'm sorry to go up on a rant,
it's
Joe,
good.
but it gets to the point where, listen, I'm not getting by. Look, I got bullied when I was a kid, when I was in high school. I'm sorry to tell you this, Dan Savage and the rest of the LGBT rage mob. Not going to let you guys bully me. My days of getting bullied ended when I was 15 years old, okay? When I punched the kid who was bullying me right in his face, okay? I caught a beating after that. But guess what? The bully didn't beat me up anymore, okay? So get it through your head. We're not getting bullied, and we're not going to allow you to bully us. In any way, by the way. And particularly our children.
This is end on a good note. It's the 7th Court of Appeal.
There's a good note in all this?
Yes. Basically, this is a court in Indiana, the federal court, 7th District, basically concluded that the county's nativity scene is constitutional because it fits within a long national tradition of using the nativity scene as a broader holiday display to celebrate the origins of Christmas, which is a public holiday. This is the importance of this. Obviously, it's not Christmas, but why is this important? Because the judge, Amy St. Eve, is a Trump appointee.
That's right.
And she wrote the majority. That's why we bring this up. That was the main driver why Joe and I voted for Donald Trump. It's because of judges. Judges. This is what the good judge had to say about her basically majority that she wrote. She said the county's nativity scene is part of a larger Christmas display that contains various other symbols of Christmas, including Santa Claus and his sled, a reindeer, 4 carolers standing in front of a lamp post, and 7 prominent candy stripe poles. The government celebration of Christmas comports with a larger pattern of government-recognized public holidays, Christian and non-Christian alike, so therefore it should stand. What is the problem? Again, you say that I'm imposing myself. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
But do you see how nefarious the ACLU is? They know this has nothing to do with the Establishment Clause. Nothing whatsoever. This is the way they tell basically Christian communities that you cannot put a Christian message, a Christmas message, on town property. Let's say in front of the courthouse or in front of the city hall. Who are they bothering? Are they really discriminating against, what's her name, Miss Woodring? Okay, or is Miss Woodring just a troublemaker? Number one. Number two, if your neighbors are so hateful to you, Miss Woodring, why would you live there? If they're such truly hateful people because they want to put a nativity scene, a creche, on the lawn of public property, okay, town property, in other words, why would you want to live there if they're such hateful people? Why don't you just move somewhere else? Why do you have to sick the ACLU on them? But I'll tell you what, in this culture war, it's them, the ACLU, and the SPLC, that have to get their butts kicked a little bit. And how do they do that? How do you kick their butts? Well, Trump did it. And to Joe and my credit, and to many people out there who said our primary reason for voting for Donald Trump was for the judges. Let me give you a little bit of a quote right here. Now, this is where after the ACLU, the Indiana ACLU, filed a lawsuit, okay, on behalf of Miss Woodring, okay, this is what they said. Quote, the addition of Santa and the carolers does not in any way minimize the religiosity of the display, as they are not integrated in any way into the display and are far removed from the creche and would not be viewed as a part of the display. Right, because Santa Claus doesn't belong in the creche, ACLU, nor does the carolers, nor do the candy cane beams or any of that stuff belong near a creche or inside of a creche. It belongs outside of the creche, but still on town property, you sore losers, you. But here's the thing. The lawsuit argued Tuesday's decision reversed a decision from April by U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Pratt, now wait for it, an Obama appointee, who ruled in favor of Woodring that the nativity scene did endorse Christianity and lacked a secular purpose. Do you understand that why it's so important and that we look on the last 4 years, take everything else and throw it in the garbage. Trump gave us 250 or more federal judges and 3 Supreme Court justices.
Huge.
If
And
you
they
don't
know
think you
it,
have a
by the way.
they know it. That's
They
why they
know
want to
it.
pack the court. That's why they're trying to figure out ways that can possibly, don't ask me how, impeach Kavanaugh or impeach Amy Coney Barrett. You notice how they don't usually
How do
mention.
you possibly impeach a judge
How
that
do
went
you-
through the process? I mean,
How would they
again,
call you a hate? How do they say that you speak hate
this
because you're
should
Catholic?
scare you. Again, as an American, these type of activities and statements should scare you. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. This country, I'll be truthful with you, man. I have never seen anything like it before. I have never in my entire life. It is sick and sad. It really, really, really is.
You know, like in movies, it's portrayed, or in neighborhoods, like you always had rival groups, like guys from that high school and guys from that high school, and every couple of weeks, because they're boys, they had to go out and they had to have a fight in the street. Okay, it was almost accepted, all right. And then the leader of one fights the leader of the other. He gives him a bloody nose, and then vice versa. 2 weeks later, okay, and it's all kind of normal. I don't want to normalize it, but the thing is, it's all kind of normal. And that's the way politics has kind of been, let's say, for argument's sake, at least for most of our lifetimes. Here's the difference. What it's turned into now is one of those groups, instead of taking it as kind of like almost like a ritualistic thing, a bunch of guys with one of the groups one day decides they're going to bring guns. In other words, that it no longer becomes a matter of, let's say, civility when it comes to, I might be using a crude example, but when it comes to political discourse in this country and everything else, okay, now they brought the guns. They've laid those guns in traps over the course of the last 50 years in the courts and every place else, and now they're pulling them out. And I say figuratively, but in other words, they're pulling out the big guns. And they bring out the ACLU, they bring out the Southern Poverty Law Center, they do everything they can because they're not interested in a fair fight anymore, like the 2 gangs I'm talking about. Now they want to crush you. And how do they do that? They don't want any more fighting. What they want is their view of peace is to destroy every one of us. Therefore, they'll have everybody who thinks alike, and they'll have peace. I will say this. One thing I liked was that Beckett Law, which filed a brief on behalf of the group that owned the nativity scene. I love this. Joe's going to love this. You guys are going to love this. That owned the nativity scene also hailed the ruling as a win. Quote, the ACLU can't cancel the baby Jesus. Close quote. How do you like those apples? Now, see, that's what you need. Now, I'm not joking. I mean, I might sound like a little tongue-in-cheek when I say that. I'm not joking. The ACLU, you cannot cancel the baby Jesus. You can't. That means you can't cancel his people. That means you can't cancel his church. You see, you pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed for the last 100 years. Now, because of Donald Trump, you got rid of him. I'll give you that much credit, but not before he did damage to you. What Joe just said, huge, those judges.
And who you should blame for that? Barack Obama.
Sure.
Because he didn't fill his slots. He left them open for Trump. Someone dropped the ball. I have never heard anyone in the media blame him for that.
Well, they're not going to because he's in charge right now, so they can't blame
I know
him for
that,
anything.
but just so you know, that's his fault. He left those open. Someone wasn't paying attention. Big mistake.
Huge mistake. Huge mistake. He mistakenly thought that Hillary was going to win. I don't blame him for thinking she was going to win. But you don't fill those spots?
That was just dumb.
Now, it's quite possible that McConnell might not have let those judges get through, but with Lindsey Graham on the in the Senate, I'm sure a lot of your judges would have gotten through. It's your fault, Barry. It's your fault, Barry Obama, that you didn't get your judges through, and that's why they took down Trump for 4 years, because they tried to stand in his way from getting judges on the courts. And again, I know a lot of people in the chat room, a lot of people in the media. Look, I'm somewhat disgusted with Mitch McConnell. Don't get me wrong. I'm disgusted with Lindsey Graham because they're just not consistent conservatives. But at the end of the day, for what Joe and I wanted, is two amongst many people who voted for Trump because we believed him that he was going to appoint judges from that list. Okay, we basically got what we wanted. Now, I'd be a hypocrite if I was like Steve Bannon says, stop sucking your thumb. If I was sucking my thumb over Biden being in the Oval Office with Kamala, and when Biden gets kicked out, it's going to be Kamala and probably Andrew Disgraziad Cuomo. Okay, if I was still sucking my thumb about that, that's one thing. But guess what? I'd be a hypocrite. You know why? Because I said in 2016, I just want the judges. Well, guess what? We got a lot more from Trump, but we got the judges. In other words, and in the course of the next 2 years, We'll fight back against them, okay? They're not going to get everything that they've been threatening to do. They're going to get some of it, and it's going to be gut-wrenching, okay? But in 2 years, okay, in other words, when we take back the Senate decisively.
And the House.
I
expect that as well.
Then guess what? Biden gets no judges through. Because then the Susan Collinses and the Mitt Romneys, if they're still there, and the Lisa Murkowskis, the Republicans will have 57, 58 senators. And you know what? They could have their dissident Republicans. And Mitch McConnell, hopefully at that point, will go back to being firm on judges and consistently conservative and tell Joe Biden, don't even think you're getting a judge through. Don't even think you're getting one judge through. Not going to happen. That is something that we have to hope for. And then let's get a guy, who knows, it's premature in 2024. Hopefully we got a guy like DeSantis or a Kristi Noem or somebody like that. But that remains to be seen. The point is that with the judges in place, we have an aid to us in the culture war. We're seeing that. This nativity scene story that we found, okay, this has been central to the culture war since we were kids. They've been fighting about nativity scenes. And the ACLU swoops in, okay, like the communist anti-Christians that they are. Oh, you can't do that. That violates the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution of the First Amendment or what, you know. So you can't do that. And they've been winning. Why? Because they've had the judges. Because conservatives for the longest time, they ceded the courts to the left. Well, guess what? Trump represents bringing them back, and let's get more power in this country to bring them back even more. But look at what happened in a major battle in the culture war. Christian nativity scenes on the lawns of town property. The ACLU got told, you can't cancel Jesus.
Love it.
Sorry. Those are Christians in those communities. There might be a Jew here or a Muslim there. They're not complaining. And if Miss Woodring is complaining, guess what? There's nothing for her to complain about because there's secular items out there too.
And here's the thing.
But the creche is the creche and it stays by itself.
If you want to put a symbol for for Hanukkah, go for it.
Nobody stopped her.
Go for it.
I don't know what she is.
No, but I'm just saying, it doesn't offend me. This is, again, why are you effing with me? You see, I appeal to all objective people on that. Why are you effing with my people? I'm not effing with yours. I don't care if you want to put something for a Muslim holiday on it. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But yet you, not necessarily Muslims, I'm just the general you are effing with me.
Right.
And it's not American. It's not an American idea. It should bother everybody. It's going on, people. We're at a very, very, very dangerous place in this country right now. They think we're dangerous. Actually, no. I think you're dangerous.
Oh, they're more than dangerous. And what they can't stand is that they've been dangerous for a very long time, and now we're fighting back. We're fighting back, and that's and there's nothing you could do about it. ACLU and SPLC. Not only are we fighting back, in other words, trying to use the law, trying to use the courts. We're fighting back against you because the more you call us racist, pick a name, anti-Semitic, homophobic, not that word means anything. It's a meaningless word. It's a leftist construct, the word homophobia. All of it. At the end of the day, whether those words mean anything or not, what you don't like more than anything else is we look at you right in the face is that's irrelevant to us. We don't care. Hillary, by the way, she blew it up for you. She really did. That speech where she called us deplorable, she gave us the word that we can now apply to ourselves. So we don't have to go through the litany of words anymore. We just tell the ACLU and the SPLC, yeah, we get it. We know you told us we're deplorable. Now it's time for us to tell you we don't care. By the way, we're filing a lawsuit against you, ACLU. We're filing a lawsuit against you, SPLC. I don't know why anybody hasn't filed a lawsuit. Maybe they have, and it's not widely known, against the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, and the ACLU. And let them know. You cannot just call people racist because you want to. You can't call people names and libel them and defame them, okay, and detract from them in public without a lawsuit. I don't know why anybody's not filing lawsuits against them and taking them to court and making them pay through the nose. They have lists, you know. They have lists of people that they say are anti-Semitic because they say something critical of the state of Israel. All right, or come up with another name to call them. I don't know why there isn't lawsuits filed against them, left and right, especially the SPLC with their stupid list. They say, who are you to put me on a list? We'll put you on a list. How's that? I don't know. But at the very least, aside from that, at least we're fighting back. And those are the type of stories we're covering here at the Frontline, Joe and Joe. And a good message, I think, Joe, you wanted to start with tonight about let's start here. Let's start here. Societal change, okay, starts right here in the human heart. That's where it changes. Start with you, okay, and then bring it out to other people. But ask God for grace first, okay? Ask God to become a soldier in his army and then go out there and fight this culture war. Not on their terms, on our terms. Not in their violent, let's burn down city ways. We fight with the truth. That's why they hate you ultimately. That's why they hate us ultimately, and many other people out there. They hate us because we tell the truth about them, about their evil, and the things they're trying to promote in this country. And we're stopping them. We're going to continue to stop them. And we don't need Donald Trump or the Republican Party to do it. We love Donald Trump. Absolutely did. I didn't agree with him on everything. Far from it. Okay? But he was a good president. But he's not there anymore. And the Republicans are out of power. So we shouldn't have looked to them for everything to begin with. Now even more so. Let's look to God. Let's ask for the grace that we need. And then we could get out there and we could fight this battle. Do you agree, Joe Resinello?
Absolutely.
That's what I say.
Absolutely.
So we want to thank. Any final thoughts, Joe?
Well, no, to be honest with you, try to do a little something extra, I would say. If you don't pray the rosary, start. If you don't read the scripture every day, start. If you don't go to confession regularly, start. Up your game a little bit. It'll make you feel better, it'll give you hope, it'll give you faith, and I think it'll give you courage and strength. And that's what we need, especially amongst Catholic men. We have to get out there and we have to fight the fight. And I'll be honest with you, if we do so, there is no doubt in my mind we can make an impact.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff on Facebook and YouTube. Please follow Holy Faith Media on Facebook and YouTube. And Patreon, Frontline with Joe and Joe on Patreon. If you want to contribute, please do so. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation, it's going on everywhere. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.